Hey guys, it's Vintage Vinny, and welcome to my Coca Cola tray collection update for 2020. This will be featured not only on my channel, but on George, aka the Antique Nomad's channel, for the hashtag Show Off Your Bunker. When we look at the 1910s Coca-Cola trays, you really get a taste of the Victorian Edwardian era with the flowers and the lace and just the overall big hats. Because there isn't a lot of space on this table, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to talk about the tip trays first because all of the ones that I have are from this era. And then we'll go ahead and we'll move into the larger trays. So the tip trays that I have in my collection so far range from the year 1906 to 1916. I'm going to tell you how much I paid for each one if I remember, and what to look for in the originals and in the fake ones that you will find out there. So this is the very first tip tray that I found. I got this at a flea market from a person who I guess was selling a lot of older things, but they didn't know that this was older. I paid 50 cents for it. As you can see, the condition, excuse me, is rather rough, but being 114 years old, I'll take this in a heartbeat because this is incredible. Ones that are in really good condition will sell for really good money. What I like about it so much is it has the reliefs, the fatigue for 5 cents. The images on it are fantastic. The border is really cool. The trademark is faded, but it is in the tail of the sea. If you look up close, it's hard to see because it has been faded over the years. But that was a really cool find. I didn't care how bad a shape it's in. I mean, when it's displayed, it's kind of rough, like I said, and you can see all the scratches like you can now, but again, to own something this old, even still, if I were to resell this, I could probably ask 40 or 50 bucks because of the age. Now this one is the 1910 brim hat tray, girl. This one I think I paid about $25 for. Again, a really good price. As you can see, the paint down here has been slowly but surely chipping away. This one, get it to focus for you all. The trademark is in the tail of the sea. And right here, you can barely see that marking from the company. But the reproductions don't have this really intricate border, as far as I know. They're just solid, at least with the bigger trays. No, you know what? The reproductions also have this border, but again, very fuzzy lines. The image is not clear and very intricate. So that was a really good find. And like I said, these trays are going to have damage, at least the ones in my collection, because that adds to the charm of the piece. And plus, I don't like owning something that's completely mint, because one fell swoop and it is not mint anymore. And plus, mint doesn't have character. Now this one, oh man, I think I also paid maybe 20 something dollars for this. Again, I can't remember. It's on my Instagram. This is the 1914 Betty Girl Coca-Cola tip tray. And I think I did forget to mention what these were for. You know, back in the day at the soda fountains when you were getting your drink and, you know, you needed to put your money on a tray for the waiter to take, or waitress to take, you put it on here along with the tip that you wanted to give. So that's what these were designed for. So this is just really cool. Again, the images are very clean and vibrant. Being 106 years old, very good condition. Now you do have the drink Coca-Cola, delicious and refreshing. Very faintly you can see the trademark is in the tail of the sea, but it is kind of small, so it's hard to really look at. But look at the crisp, vibrant image of Betty. It's definitely in really good condition for its age. Now the last tip tray that I'd like to share with you all, I bought in a lot of different trays a while ago. They had a bunch of the reproduction trays, and I guess they had these in there too. They had 2 of them. I sold one of them. And I guess they didn't know that these were originals, so I got the lot for like, I don't even know how much it was. It was probably $20-$25. Sold the other one for probably like 80, and I kept this one because I didn't have one. So I paid, or maybe it was less. I don't remember how much it was, but it was a really good price. So this is the Elaine tip tray. And as you can see right here, let's see if I can get it to focus for you all. So you've got the Coca Cola Company, Passaic Metalware in Passaic, New Jersey. The trademark is in the tail of the sea. And just look at the bright, vibrant image of Elaine. It is very, very clear, very, very bright, very, very vibrant, and just overall in really good shape. If I were to sell this one on eBay, I would probably ask upwards of $80 to $85 because the condition is so great. So now that we have covered the tip trays that I have in my collection, let's get back to the larger serving trays. So the first set of Victorian trays that we're going to look at are the 1910 tray and the 1913 brim hat girl tray. So let's start over here. So as you can see, the condition is quite rough. There's a lot of rust all over, but like I said, that adds to the charm. This piece is well over 100 years old, so for it to be in the shape that it's in, sitting currently, is remarkable. This tray also is referred to as the Hamilton King girl tray, and I think that was the artist. Trademark is in the tail of the sea there. The Coca Cola girl. And on here somewhere, oh, it says it down here, American Artworks, Coshocton, Ohio. And that says painting, and I'm reading it through the camera, so sorry. Painting only copyrighted by the Coca Cola Company, 1909. I got this tray, let me move this one out of the way real quick, several years ago on eBay, and because of the condition, a lot of people weren't really interested in it. I don't know what it was, or what the situation was at the time. I only paid $15 for this tray, and that was really well worth it to me because I can't afford a $900 mint tray. Like I said, I also don't want mint, but it was definitely worth picking up because you can still see the image despite the rust. So I enjoy having that one in my collection. With the reproductions that are out there, the ones that were made in 1971, I believe, of course, there's no trademark in the tail of the sea. The image is very fuzzy. The border that you see on this is not present. It's just a solid red tray. And it's just not as cool as the older one. So that is the 1910 Hamilton King girl tray. Now we're going to go ahead and move into the 1913, I think this is the Wolf Company tray? Yep, it was made by Wolf and Company back in 1912, but I think it was released in 1913. This one I did pay up for. I paid about $46. Again, that was still a very fair price because if you look at the graphic details of the tray, the girl is in pretty seeable condition. How to tell the reproductions from the originals? With this one, look in the glass that she's holding. In the reproductions, it will say drink Coca Cola. Here in the original, there is a 5-cent stamp on the glass. So that's what you need to look for. And also, of course, always pay attention to where the trademark is. Trademark registered right there. And then look for this mark right here. I'll focus on that for you all. So copyright 1912, Wolf and Company, Passaic Metalware Company in Passaic, New Jersey. So again, just a very, very nice, detailed piece of Victorian, Edwardian era advertising. And like I said, I've gotten pretty lucky with some of these trays that I'm going to share with you all. Ones from all eras. The next set of Victorian trays we're going to look at are the 1914 Betty Girl serving tray and the 1916 Elaine or World War I girl tray. I am holding the camera at the moment because the elongated tray is rather big and I can't display all of it whilst discussing it. So I am going to be doing separate segments again. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the 1914 Betty Girl, and then I will come back and we will discuss the Elaine serving tray. So as you can see, my Betty Girl serving tray is not in the greatest of shape. I didn't pay much for it. I can't remember off the top of my head how much I did get it for because it's been several years. But you can definitely see the sharpness in the color of Betty's outfit with what she's wearing, the lace bonnet and the lace sheer clothing that she is in, which I cannot imagine wearing that in summertime back then. But this is definitely an original tray. If I can get it to focus. The trademark is in the tail of the C. Look for a bright, vibrant image. And I don't know if there's any markings or if the rust has taken over that part of it. But it's a very bright and vibrant tray. Now, in the 50s and in the 70s, Coke did reissue these trays. In the 50s, a company in, I think it was some place in Africa. The name of, I think it was Metalcraft, who made reproduction trays, and the image is quite fuzzy, and the back of those trays is a mustard yellow color. Then in the 1970s, with the bicentennial coming up and the Americana vibe kicking into high gear, the Coca Cola company reissued this tray along with several others that I will be discussing in this video. On the 1970s tray, they reissued the ovular Betty Girl tray. Now, there is an original one of those also. They never reproduced the square Betty tray. So if you find a square Betty tray or rectangular Betty Girl tray, that is an original. So now that we have discussed the Betty tray, let's go ahead and we'll talk about Elaine. Okay, so I do have two of the original 1916 Coca-Cola Elaine Girl or World War I Girl trays. This one I did pick up for $10 several years ago from a guy in a small town here in Maryland, not local to me, but somewhere out, further away from where I am. I had asked him when I purchased it what the history of the tray was. He said that this was in it was some male relative. It was like a father-in-law, a dad, or grandfather, one of the three. He said that this was in the gas station that this male relative had owned for many years. And he just recently, I think, passed, or at the time recently passed, and was selling off some of his things. So I only paid $10 for this one. Because I have a newly upgraded, updated, more vibrant Elaine tray, I'm going to go ahead and resell this one. If you happen to be interested in it, I have it listed on eBay right now. The link to my shop is down below. I am asking $89.99 with best offer open because there is a little bit of a story to go along with it. I am taking offers, so again, if this is a tray that you are definitely interested in and you have a reasonable offer, send it to me. You never know if I might take it or not. And then this one over here, I also just recently acquired. And I got it for $51. So that breaks my record for how much I've spent on one of these. Only by $1. Actually, a few dollars. So yeah, if you happen to be interested in that one, please check out my eBay shop. It is down below in the description box. I also have a Betty tip tray if you happen to be interested in that too. So let me go ahead, stop rambling about the history of where I got these, and let's go ahead and we'll talk about the differences between the original and the reproduction. I felt it would be best to share the better condition tray for this portion. So as I mentioned before, this is the original 1916 Coca Cola Elaine Girl serving tray, also known as the World War I Girl. So as you can see in the tail of C, in Coca, trademark registered, is in the tail, so that confirms its authenticity. In the 1972 reproduction, it will say Reg US Padoff underneath Coca Cola, and the image will not be as clear and vibrant as this one is. As you can see, there's a little bit of a scratch going across Elaine's face, but you don't see it unless you get up close. And again, this tray is 104 years old. So what do you expect? Perfection? Look at the border of this tray. It's absolutely exquisite. It really fits this tray to a T. Also in the 70s, I don't know if this was a manufacturer error, but some of the trays came out like really blue. I don't know what that was all about or what happened, but some of them just come out really, really blue and yucky and yeah, not good. I can't remember if there's something on the bottom here that you guys can see. Let me see if I can lay it down and we'll look. I feel like there was something. Oh yeah, it says, I can't even make it out, but there is a mark right there. Stelic Signs, Meadoware, I think that just says Passaic, New Jersey. And then the Coca Cola Company. They won't have these marks on the reproduction. It will have a mark on the side saying that it is a reproduction taken from a 1916 advertisement. But overall, this tray is in really great shape, and I am super ecstatic to be able to own one. When we look at the 1920s, you're going to see small hints of Victorian era style with a little bit more quote-unquote modern times. Like for example, on this tray, we're going to see the big brimmed hat, which we just saw in some of the Edwardian styled trays. But on this girl here, you're seeing a little bit more of a plunging neckline, which was very risque for its time. This one over here is from 1920, and I got that one on eBay for $17. This one over here is from 1921. I got this at a flea market for $30. And let me tell you, this is a hard tray to come by, and I'm blown away that I own one, because some of these trays are getting harder to get and get cheap. So I really lucked out when I found this one. My heart was racing, let me tell you. So let me go ahead and I will pause this for you all. I'll get the one tray in focus and we will talk about it. Don't like the glare on you, so I'll hold it for now. So this is, according to the 2008 Ellen Petretti's Coca Cola guide, is from 1920. And the way that you can tell, of course, as I've mentioned before, the original's from the reproduction, which they did make in 1980. The tail has the trademark on it, and as you can see, there is some scratching and everything, but like I said, this tray is 100 years old this year, so it's in phenomenal shape for its age, despite the rust. So in 1980, I think for the Vancouver Bottling Company, the Coca-Cola Bottling Company, they reissued it for the 60th anniversary, and that is a dead giveaway. Like, you can tell how fuzzy the graphics and everything are on it. So that helps you identify the reproductions from the originals. And also, down below here, it will say commemorative. I can't remember exactly what it says specifically, but it says like 1920 to 1980 Vancouver, Canada. Something along those lines. So that's a dead giveaway that it is a reproduction. Now this tray, and again I apologize for the glare here, as I mentioned, is from the year 1921, making this 99 years old. In the 70s, when Coke reissued the trays of the 20s, this was one of the trays that they had reproduced. Now, Coca-Cola only reissued one elongated tray during its whole time that it manufactured these advertising trays. And that is the 1916 Elaine World War I girl. Sorry. So as I mentioned, Elaine is the only tray that was ever produced that was elongated through the entire manufacturing of advertising trays for the Coca Cola company. What the company decided to do when they reissued the trays in the early 70s is they took this advertisement from the calendar that they released that year in 1921, and they reproduced the calendar print and put it on the elongated tray, as opposed to just the image of the pretty flapper girl, such as this right here. So they never, ever reproduced just the tray looking like this specifically. They used the image, but they used the full image on the calendar as opposed to just cutting off from the midsection for this one. So the next two trays that we are going to be looking at are, again, Alan Petretti's guide can sometimes re-update us on the actual year of production of something. A lot of people on eBay list this one as 1921, 1922. This one obviously is from 1923. This one I did pay on the left. I paid about $40 for, and as you can see, it's not in the greatest shape around the girl's face, which is what I really like to see in these trays. I have been trying to update this one for quite a while with no success. The whole other part of the tray itself is in good condition, including where the glass is. It's just not in the face, which is where I really, really would like to have a better looking tray. Now this one was taken from an advertisement of a girl sitting at a baseball park. And on the original calendar and the reproduction tray that they released, I think in like 1991, you can see the full calendar image on the tray. And the original image from the early 20s of a girl sitting at a ballpark is incredibly cool. And I wish I could get my hands on one for cheap, but they're very expensive, and you all know me, I'm a tightwad or cheapskate when it comes to this kind of stuff. So the only tray that I know that they reproduced was in the early 90s, and it doesn't look like this. It's a blue tray. It's kind of like the style and shape of the 1971 Hamilton Girl reproduction. So now we can move over here, and ooh, that glare is bad. So this is the original 1923 Flapper Duster Girl tray. This one I paid about $5 for on eBay, and I'm surprised nobody else was buying it at the time. It is rough. As you can see, there's a lot of marks up here by the girl's hair, and there's marks all over it. Again, this tray is 97 years old right now in 2020, so it's still in pretty good shape for its age. In the 1970s, they reproduced this tray. It was in an ovular shape. So if you ever come across the ovular shaped tray that looks like this, it is a reproduction. And also, I think they reissued it again in like 1980. Same shape, but it has like some logo on the very bottom, and it's the image is more, how do you say it? What's the word I'm thinking of? Like they zoomed out. Like if you see the original calendar print, she's holding a duster. Like she's got the Coke glass in one hand and she's got a duster in another hand. So the image is more zoomed out, more like the calendar print, and then it is put on the tray. So that one is a reproduction from the 80s. So if you ever come across the square version like this, you found an original. Okay, so the next set of trays we're going to look at from the 1920s are from 1924 and 1925. I picked both of these trays up, again, on eBay. I keep saying eBay, that's where most of these come from. This one, I got really lucky and scored. It was $35.98, and it is in pretty good shape for its age. I mean, look at the image on it. It's clear, it's vibrant, it's just a very beautiful example of this tray. Now, this one did come in maroon, and it also came in brown. I have the brown tray. As far as I know, there are no reproductions of that one. Now, if we move over to the 1925 tray here. This is an original. Again, in the 70s when they reproduced this tray, they made it look exactly like the original. This one I only paid $10 for. They did not know it was original. Because there are so many of the fakes on the market, and we'll go ahead and we'll discuss that right now, how to tell the difference between the original and the reproduction. Oops. Okay. I think that's going to be as best as I can do right now. Okay. So the 1925 Party Girl serving tray is what this one is referred to the most. So again, always look for the tail and the C in Coca. This one doesn't have any markings, like to tell the year. Let me go ahead and I'll share it with you all at the bottom here. So it is put in gold, copyright the Coca Cola Company, the American Artworks, Coshocton, Ohio, made in the US, so always be on the lookout for that. I think the reproductions also say that. Again, look for the really bright, crisp image of the flapper girl. In the 70s, when they reproduced this tray, they put a bottle in the bottom right corner of the image. So if you find that on any of those trays, you'll know that that is a fake. Also, the trademark will be Reg US Paduff underneath Coca-Cola, like most of those trays were in the early days, or at least in the 70s when they reissued them. Also, the reproduction trays will say, you know, this is a reproduction of a Coca-Cola advertisement from the 20s, made in USA, 1973, 1974. But always, always be careful when you are out buying these at antique shows or antique stores. You gotta know your stuff, because you could either get screwed and pay a lot of money for a reproduction, or you could score big because somebody doesn't know the difference between the original and the reproduction. So that is how to tell the difference between the original 1925 tray and the one from 1973. Ooh, that's not good. So this is another really awesome tray. This is dated 1929. It is the Flapper Girl Bottle Sales tray. I can't remember how much I paid for this one. It has to have been upwards in the $40 mark, $45 mark. As you can see, the tray is faded around the rim. As far as I know, there are no reproductions of this tray made. There are, however, two versions. You have one that advertises bottle sales, and you have one that advertises fountain sales. For whatever reason, for the longest time, people said that this one was the hardest to come by. I can't find a decent shaped... Let me rephrase that. I can't find a fountain sales tray in rather decent shape for me to display. I just can't. I had a really good luck finding the bottle sales tray in really good condition. As far as I know, there are no reproductions of this tray out there. So now I'm going to share with you all the trays that I have from the 1930s. As you all know from American history, in October of 1929, the stock market crashes and a lot of people are affected by the Great Depression that follows. It didn't stop Coke sales though. So these are the trays that I have, and I've got more. This one is probably one of my favorites, like all of them. This one is the 1932 Yellow Bathing Suit Beauty. I've had a few of these and have resold them because they just weren't in the best of shape. I think I paid like a little over $40 for this one. I love the graphic images of the beautiful girl, and it just is a real true piece of art. As far as I know, they did not reproduce the 1932 tray. Between the years 1933 and 1935, Coca-Cola decided to advertise their products using some very famous people of their days. In 1933, Coca-Cola had beautiful actress Frances D advertise their product while I think she's sitting on a ledge and she's holding a glass of Coke smiling. Here we have Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer actors Maureen O'Sullivan and Johnny Weissmuller, who played Tarzan and Jane in the original feature film. This one I think I paid upwards of like $46 for. As you can see, there is some paint right here, which I'm not going to attempt to take off because I fear ruining it. But overall, the image itself is in very good shape. Now, they did reproduce this one, I think, a few times. In the 50s, I think they reproduced it. That same African metalcraft company. And then also in the 1970s, I think to mark the 40th anniversary of the Tarzan and Jane movie, so 1974. Always be on the lookout for those trademarks and the markings on the bottom. It says Coca Cola Company, 1934, Coshocton, Ohio, US, like all the other originals. So just be mindful, and also look at the very bright colors and of the image itself to help you understand what you've got and what you're looking at when you're out in the wild looking at these. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at the Madge Evans serving tray, which I also happen to have in my collection, and we're also going to take a look at the 1936 Hostess or inverted tray. So I picked up Madge Evans a while back. I think, like I said, some of these prices I can remember, some of them I just can't, so I'm not going to throw a guesstimate out there. Like I said, the most I've spent on one advertising tray is $51, so it's under that. So this one was made in 1935. Madge Evans at the time was a big MGM star, and to help promote the product, they asked her to help sponsor. So she went ahead, posed for this picture as the beautiful gal that she was, and helped advertise the product. As far as I know, this tray was not reproduced. Now, when we come over here to the 1936 tray, up until a few weeks ago, and I was just kind of looking up some other videos on YouTube, and I found somebody who, I can't remember their name right now, but they had talked about this tray specifically, because I guess they had just picked it up. And up until they said that this was the inverted tray, I hadn't thought about it, because usually, as you can see on barely over here on the Madge Evans tray, the inside is red and the rim is gold, whereas the rim is red and the inside is gold. So that's why they call it the Hostess Girl or the inverted tray. And it also came across to me that this actually marks the 50th anniversary of Coca Cola. So that's probably why they did what they did with this tray, to help mark the 50th anniversary. So just a really pretty girl just drinking the product, and yeah, I absolutely love her, as I love all of my trays. Again, I don't know that this one was reproduced. So now we are examining the 1937 and the 1938 Coca-Cola trays. This one is known as the Girl Running on the Beach. I bought that one, I think, along with a bunch of other ones for a really decent price. This one on the left was reproduced in the 1950s by that metalcraft company. And you'll be able to tell right away that it's a reproduction. The image is very fuzzy, it's not as bright and vibrant as this girl is right here. So you'll definitely be able to tell the difference. And another thing I want you all to take a look at in regards to the 1937 tray compared to the 1920s and the 1910s, look how revealing that bathing suit is, or at least revealing it was for the day. I mean, she's showing her legs, she's showing her arms more, and a little bit more of her cleavage, breasts. So it's very, very risque for the time, because that just was not very, I guess you could say, as common as it is in modern times. So over here is the 1938 yellow-dressed girl. That's what they call her. This art was done by Bradshaw Crandall, and as far as I know, it was never reproduced. She kind of reminds me of Joan Crawford in a way, with the way her face is styled and her hair. It's a very nice tray, and a lot of these are popping up in recent years, so I guess they're just more common than we think, but they sell for a pretty decent number depending on the condition of it. So if you are looking to own trays like this, you can get them relatively cheap if you know what you're doing. So this is a really cool tray as well. This is the 1939 Coca Cola Springboard Girl. I think I paid $46 for this one, if I can remember off the top of my head. Again, a very popular, very cool tray. Again, I think the woman looks like Joan Crawford. And it is also quite risque for the time. You know, lots of legs, lots of skin showing that, 20 years earlier would not have been acceptable. Just, again, a really cool tray. I like that she kind of pops off of the tray because she's covering refreshing with her hair. Just a very neat piece, and again, it was never reproduced as far as I know, so if you find one of these, you've got an original. So when we get into the 1940s, you know at this time, through many of our history lessons, that World War II is taking place. Germany invades Poland in 1939, putting Europe into war. We don't join until after the Japanese bomb Pearl Harbor in December of 1941. So here we've got the 1940 Sailor Girl tray. Can't remember how much I paid for her. There are no reproductions of this one made, so if you find one of these, you've got an original. In 1941, Coca-Cola issues a ice skating girl. And what's really neat about this piece is that it's got these two, I guess you'd call them trademark logos on them, or images. Those came from a thermometer, like that image did from, I think, like the late 30s. So that is a very cool piece. I have one more tray that I'd like to share with you all because I cannot get it all onto one table. Okay. So the year 1942 represents a very significant time for the Coca-Cola Company. The US is just barely into World War II, and a lot of metal is needed to be made into products to help the war effort. So Coca-Cola did not issue any trays past 1942 in order to help with the war effort. So from the year 1942 up until the year 1950, there were no trays produced. Now we're going to jump into the 1950s, a very popular pop culture era for many Americans. The mid-century furniture, the music, the cars, the movie stars, all that good stuff. This tray is based on the 1948 ad The Girl with the Wind in Her Hair. Trays produced were made between 1950 and 1952. There are two versions to this tray. We have the screened background, which is this one, and we have the solid background, which is the one on the right. The screened background is a rather common tray. It doesn't go for a lot of money, unless it's like a really rare one from a different country that either is just not in circulation in the market, or there were not a lot of them made. That one I did pay $27 for. That's what I felt it was worth when I purchased it, and I think I won it at an auction, so of course I paid a little bit more. That tray, because it is so common, is really only worth what you're willing to spend. At the time, I was willing to spend the $27 because I had just been starting collecting. So I felt that was worth it. So if it was worth $27, that's what it was worth to me. If I were to try to resell it, I probably would only ask a few dollars more than what I spent just to get my money back and maybe a little bit of profit, but I'm happy with the condition it's in. Like I said, I don't look for mint at all. Now we're going to focus our attention over here to the, get that glare out of the way, the solid background tray. This one is much more popular among collectors because the color and the vivaciousness of the pretty red-headed girl is more detailed, and you can definitely see a difference in the design of the tray. So this one, because again, it only just, they don't pop up very often. At least I haven't seen. Like, most of the time when I look up this tray from 1950 to 1952, this is the one that I don't see very often. The screen backgrounds, they're around a lot, and I'm sure there are plenty of these around too, but when it comes up on the market, they can demand a pretty good price. I think I paid only $20 for this one. I think. So if you definitely see this one out in the wild, and you want to resell it, pick it up, because it is definitely worth more than the fraternal twin, the screened background tray. Now we are looking at probably one of the most common Coke trays that are out on the market, and that is the Menu Girl serving tray. From my own research, this tray was produced between 1953 all the way up to 1960. I've seen pictures of grocery stores where they had stacks and stacks of them in their little soda merchandise display. So these were probably promotional giveaways that the grocery store offered when you bought a bottle of Coke. I guess they gave you a free tray. I do have two of them, and the only reason that I own two of them is because there's a slight difference in the way that these trays look and are displayed. If you look over here on the left side here, notice the font of Have a Coke. That one is a little bit, it's a little bit like typewriter font, or the lettering is just different. If we look on this one, the lettering is also just a tad bit different. Now these ones, again, like I mentioned, are very common and are only really worth what you are willing to spend on them. For these two, I spent only, well, this was the very first tray that I got when I started collecting. I paid $13.49 for it. The second one over here, I paid about $5 for. Now, I have actually bought and sold these trays before. Back when we used to do flea markets, sometimes I would go on eBay and see if I can find lots of these. And if I had one out, I would sell it for maybe $15, $20 if I got it cheap enough. And they would sell because you don't have to pay shipping, you don't have to worry about taxes or anything like that. Well, back in the day, there wasn't sales tax on the internet. But yeah, this was and is still a very popular tray because, as you can see, there are so many different themes going on with it. You've got different seasons, like we've got spring here in this corner. We've got summer activities. We've got fall activities. And then we've got winter. And they just make really great display pieces. I have a friend that I used to work with, and she has a 50s themed kitchen. Like, she's got the whole retro dinette set that certain companies release. Like, her kitchen looks like a 50s diner. And I thought, as a gift, why don't I go ahead and I'll purchase one of these for her, and I also purchased one of the screen girl with the wind in her hair trays to put in there because they fit into that 50s themed diner. So, again, if you are starting out with tray collecting, this is probably a good one for you to pick up because it is very common and you can get them for a really good deal. The last known tray to feature a beautiful young woman that the Coca Cola company produced came out in 1957. This is known as the Umbrella Girl tray. It's got a really, really nice mint green perimeter featuring a Liz Taylor look-alike. Now, I bought this on Etsy several years ago for about $46. A very good price because most people online will want to ask like maybe upwards of $100 to maybe even $200 depending on condition. Mine is not perfect, but the image of the pretty woman is intact for the most part, and I thought it would make a really great addition to my tray collection. Now, this tray is actually an export. This is actually a Canadian tray. They made it in French and they also made it in English. So this actually is a Canadian serving tray. And it is made in the US, but again, it was exported to Canada. I think most of the French ones went to like Quebec and places where they speak French, and then this was probably distributed to like Toronto or like Ontario, places like that. But it is still a very cool tray, and I'm super excited to own it and add it to my collection. And the last tray I'd like to talk to you all about that's in my collection is from 1982 for the Cola Clan Convention. It features a giant bottle of Coke along with the Sprite Boy, which is one of the many mascots Coke has used over the years. Normally I would not indulge into any of the trays from the 80s, but this one is particularly special. Why, do you ask? What makes this tray very desirable to collectors is not only the fact that it's from a convention that Coca Cola collectors had held, but there are only 2,000 of these that were ever made, hence right here where it says limited edition of 2,000. I was really lucky and I scored one of these online through a person who was selling a bunch of newer made to look old trays. So they weren't old, they were reproductions, they had barcodes on the back of them, yada yada. So I scored this for $17. I have not seen any of these on eBay in a long time. So I guess that means they're getting harder and harder to come by and acquire, because it is a very desirable tray along with all of the ones that I have shared with you all in my collection. So finding another one of these is not going to be easy, at least right now. But I am happy that I own one, because that means I'm one of 2,000 people who has one. Now, if I were to try to upgrade it, because it's not in the greatest shape, but it might take me a while, and I don't think upgrading it at the moment is possible because I haven't seen any come up for sale. But it is very cool, and I'll go ahead and I'll turn it around for you so you guys can see it again. So it is a very, very cool tray. I'm really happy to own it in my collection. While it is only 38 years old, it's still something that is not really out there. So I'm very, very excited to own this, and I'm very proud of my collection. Thanks so much for watching my latest collection update. I know it was kind of long. I wasn't expecting it to be as long as it was. If you've stayed up until this point, I appreciate it. I just hope that you all gained some knowledge from my passion of Coca-Cola tray collecting, and that if you are ever out and about and you see a tray that I have shared, that you will be able to pick it up and resell it for some pretty decent money. So I invite you to give this video a big thumbs up, leave a comment below, subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell next to the subscribe button if you'd like to know when new videos are posted. All of the links to my social media accounts via Instagram are down below as well, where you will see pictures of items to come in future haul videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all soon. Take care, guys. Bye.